Do you have any sort of examples of where you sort of like found something that you had not seen like before you knew the languages?
One of my favorite examples comes out of Romans 8. Many people are familiar with Romans 8:28. People who may never have read the authorized version, Americans call it King James Version for themselves, may have heard or even memorized, all things work together for good for those who love Christ and are called according to his purpose. And they might turn to Romans 8:28 in, I have the NIV with me here, and read, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose, and not hear the very significant difference. In all things, God works for the good of those who love him. All things do not work together for good. That's pantheism. Now, God works all things together for good is at least a Christian concept, but grammatically it can't be what the text says, because the Greek word sunergeo, to work together, is an intransitive verb. It does not take a direct object. You can't make all things the direct object of works together. The accusative case that the noun panta has there normally does correspond to direct objects, but it can also function adverbially. And that's how the NIV is understanding it. We know that in all things, in all situations, so often tragedy strikes, and well-intentioned believers give very unbiblical advice or encouragement that actually becomes discouragement when they say something like, well, we know God works everything together for good, so you shouldn't be so sad, you shouldn't be so... No, that's not what the text says. In a fallen world, there are things that are evil. In a fallen world, there are things that are evil that God will judge and that are not part of some jigsaw puzzle that really are of something good. But in a fallen world, God is present in all situations, in all circumstances, working something that is good for believers, for his people, those called according to his purpose. In the midst of the tragedy, in the midst of the evil circumstances, but we do not have to call evil good or even evil as part of something good. To me, that is just a liberating concept and so much more realistic to the world we live in.
It's definitely powerful. Obviously, there are lots of different beliefs about this in the Christian world as well. But I think that what everybody could agree on is that sin is not God's intention from the beginning.
That's right.
And that is where that God will work through our sin and through all the wickedness that had come through sin to bring through his gospel and eventually salvation for the believer.
That's right.
I don't know if we can say a little bit more about that, or...
If we look at a complete biblical theology of sin, providence, salvation, there's a lot more that can be said. My point was simply based on the Greek grammar of one particular passage that is often referred to.
Yeah.
Please don't use this passage to claim that all things work together for good, even though that's what the authorized version says. And please don't use this passage to say that God works all things together for good, even though that's what the New American Standard Bible says. Make it a translation that can be defended from the Greek grammar.
Yeah, and that's what all translators all theologians
We
should.
try to do our best.
Yes. Despite being fallible beings.
And we don't always succeed.
So I think that is a very powerful sort of explanation for why the languages are meaningful and important
Yeah.
to learn and to grasp, and not just being able to just scramble through an interlinear or something equivalent to that. Thank you for watching this clip. If you enjoyed it, you can find another one by clicking just over here. Or if you want to watch the full episode and dive a step deeper, you can find a link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.